Welcome to 45 Forward with host, journalist, and speaker, Ron Rowell. Ron's mission is to make your second half of life even better than your first. Most of us are just approaching our half-life when we reach the mid-40s with many productive years ahead. Ron is here to help prepare us for this kind of longevity by providing vital strategies to shift the traditional waiting for retirement model to a continuous, evolving journey of compelling life chapters. So now, please welcome the host of 45 Forward, Ron Rowell.
Welcome, everyone, to 45 Forward on Bold Brave TV. I'm your host, Ron Rowell. On today's show, we're going to talk about something that's of importance to a lot of us, which is how do we age in place safely, successfully, and comfortably for as long as possible. Now, to do so, many of us hire what are known as aging in place specialists who help us make home modifications and alterations to make sure that we're safe and secure, mostly to prevent us from the possible deadly implications of a fall. But there are a few specialists who are really like Renata Glaz, who is the founder of Ageless Living. And she has a very holistic approach to aging in place, which not only includes home modifications, but a lot of other services like customized move management, home organization, decluttering, and how to use interior design in a way that really reflects your family's personal preferences and desires. She works with seniors, of course, but she works with families of all ages, helping them transition at every stage in life. So now, folks, let's meet our guest, Renata Glaz, and learn more about her age-friendly approach to aging in place. So, Renata, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ron. It's a pleasure to be here and speak with you.
Yeah, pleasure to have you. This is
Thank
something that
you.
I've been looking at for quite some time. We've started making some changes in my home. And it's something that I mentioned in my caregiving navigator guide about aging in place. So we're going to get into all the things that you do with your company, which I think is a really comprehensive approach. But I want to start a little bit just about you. You have a very interesting background. I understand you came to this country from Lithuania at age 14. So tell us a little bit about your backstory, and then we'll get right into your company.
Yes, thank you. So as you said, I came to this country at 14. I came and I went to high school. So I feel, I've been here for a while. Definitely very American with a European soul. I always say that.
Mm,
But that being brought up, in my younger years in Europe, that really instilled respect for the elderly, because
mm,
back where I came from, the elderly were held at a very high esteem, and I carry that throughout my life, and
interesting.
my respect for them has really infiltrated every aspect of what I do professionally.
Yeah, that's a great intro. I mean, I think that is something that people talk about in this country, that that there is a persistent uh, issue of ageism in this country, and it goes back both ways actually. For older people and toward younger people too. So it can go in any direction. But I think definitely that people do talk about that is an issue more so with our youth-oriented culture, um, which, of course, as you know, flies in the face of demographic reality, right? Which is that we
Absolutely.
are an aging society, and so you did,
Thankfully so.
yeah, yeah, and so but you also had a diverse academic background and training. So one of the things I found interesting was that you were originally working a lot in physical therapy.
Yes. So in 1996, I graduated from NYU with a
Hmm.
degree in physical therapy, which I continued. Back then, physical therapy all it required was a bachelor's degree, and I went for
Mm-hmm.
my master's degree for my graduate degree and to LIU at a Brooklyn campus, and my specialty was neurological rehab. And this is what I truly love to do. I've always loved neurological rehabilitation, and this is where my niche was as a physical therapist, and I did that for many years. I also worked with kids. I worked at very various fields of physical therapy. I did acute,
Mm-hmm.
I did rehab, I did um, TBI, which is traumatic brain injury, which would include stroke injuries, all neurological injuries.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked in nursing homes, hospitals, many different settings. But
Mm-hmm.
I always loved, as I said, working with the elderly. And I've been doing that since then. I don't really do physical therapy that much anymore, although I do still have some private clients that I work with. I have worked
Mm-hmm.
with for years, but I continue um, bringing my knowledge and my experience and expertise into ageless living services that we provide,
Mm-hmm.
as you had
Now,
mentioned.
yeah. So when you say neurological rehab, so is that basically you're working with their physical capability, but as a result of some sort of neurological damage or accident or some event? Is that right?
Absolutely. So most of the impairments were due to either a stroke or Parkinson's disease or a traumatic brain injury or anything that would really impede their mobility and due
Mm-hmm.
to neurological, either something that happened as a result of an accident or could have been, something that progressed, any neurological damage
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
their system, and usually professes in mobility limitations.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and those were my favorite clients, and
Yeah.
love
Yeah.
doing that.
And it's important to have people like you working in this field. It's something that I think you sort of take it for granted. I mean, even
Absolutely.
that you're, in the able-bodied community. We say, well, there's able-bodied, and then there's those with disabilities, and it's the line is much more fluid than that, and it's
Mhm.
not quite black and white, one or the other. And I remember not nearly well, there were a couple of situations. I remember one where I was commuting to New York City and taking a train, and I was running to the train, and I stepped halfway off a curb and turned my ankle badly. And I managed to hobble to the train and get on and go to work. But then the next week or so, boy, was that hard. And just the realization that how much we don't um, acknowledge, the fine line between disabled and abled,
Absolutely.
and how
We
few
definitely take
accommodations.
our healthy ankles and all the other joints and or everything about our bodies for granted until we don't. Till
Right,
something happens and it's front face and we're facing the limitations because of it.
right, right. And the other incident was when I was a few years ago working extensively. I think it was it beginning of the pandemic. Anyway, I was doing a lot of writing work, and I was sitting a lot. And one morning, after I finished this project, I woke up and I was like in excruciating pain all over the place from a lack of physical exercise and from being, sort of repetitive motion injury, but an interesting way from keeping my muscles in one position all the time. And so what what was the remedy? There were lots of theories about what happened, but the solution was physical therapy. That's whatever it was. There were all sorts of theories that doctors were saying maybe you have rheumatoid arthritis, blah blah blah. But it was physical therapy that really helped get me through it. So
I'm a great believer in physical therapy for obvious reasons.
yep, yep. So then you started your career in physical therapy, but then you then I think in 2021 founded Ageless Living. So what was that like? So now you become, I guess you were sort of an entrepreneur before that, but making the leap like this, I think really sort of on the not quite end of the pandemic, was right in the middle, right?
So my journey kind of started at the beginning of the pandemic because
Mhm.
just like everybody, my life was significantly affected by it.
Mhm.
We couldn't work. Um, and I've always wanted to start my own business. And this was an opportunity that I was basically kind of like fell into my lap. I knew I had to start to do something.
Mhm.
There were a lot of changes, and I started Ageless Living. And Ageless Living started as safety modifications company
Mhm.
because safety modifications is something that I did as a physical therapist. I would come to somebody's home and I would assess their living space
Mhm.
and make recommendations. So I kind of felt like this is exactly what I need to be, doing with my company. So my company started in, I believe, it really started in 2020, but
Mhm.
really took off and was fully created in 2021.
Mhm.
And then over the years, it developed into other things because as I was dealing with clients would ask me, "Oh, can you do this and can you do that?" So it kind of like moved into and expanded, and we expanded the services. Home safety modification goes hand in hand in home with home organization.
Mhm.
Also, a neat freak, full disclosure.
Mhm.
So that really, um, because if somebody's living at home and wants to age in place, and as we age, we kind of tend to gather a lot of things, and and we don't get rid of as many things
Right.
as we kind of bring into the house. So home organization becomes a real issue, and especially as we age and mobility issues become more prominent, we need to deal with things that
Mhm.
are with clutter and furniture being placed in certain ways. So that kind of naturally just evolved into home safety modifications, home organization, decluttering
Mhm.
um, part of it. Then I've always done interior design for family and friends. I've always been very creative. As a child, I went to art school. It was always a part of my life.
Mhm.
Um, and during the pandemic, I was reading an article and I came up on this article that kind of mentioned this lady who decided to get a degree in interior design. And I started looking into it because like that was something that was very interesting to me.
Mhm.
Um, I I started looking into it was New York Institute of Art and Design,
Mhm.
and during the pandemic, I went back to school and I got my degree in that.
Mhm.
So it further expanded my knowledge, uh, it opened my eyes to a lot of other things.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I started implementing interior design together with safety modifications and home organization. And I saw how effective it is for people who would like to age in place
Mhm.
safely. But
Right.
I think aesthetic is very important in our
Mhm.
homes. So it's very important to have the function and the safety part of it, but also the aesthetic aspect of a home. Because our home is our haven, a safe
Mhm.
haven where
Mhm.
we come in and we like to unwind and have, like be fulfilled in our homes
Mhm.
and by bringing safety, function, and aesthetic beauty into it, it really
Mhm.
makes a huge difference.
Right. Right.
That's how that came
E
about.
evolve. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that a lot of our careers are more th- they're intentional, but they're accidental, and then we sort of figure out,
Oh
oh,
yeah.
that's
And that's the
interesting.
beauty of it, I think.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. 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 So, yeah, what I'd like to do is take a deeper dive into each of these services that you provide and
Absolutely. And,
show how
and
they
I'm
integrate.
sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt, but also the concierge move management
Hmm.
really it kind of incorporates all of them. So
Hmm.
I know you want to like, I just wanted to mention that was
Yeah.
like another service that we provide. And it really incorporates every single expertise, everything that we do, every
Right.
service. It
Right.
really like blends it in.
Right. Right. Okay. So we'll do another quick overview after the break, but we are going to take a quick break now. But don't go anywhere, folks. We'll be talking much more after the break with Renata Glass, the founder of Ageless Living. So don't go anywhere.
Mike Zorek, a three-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a six-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2/3, and 2/4. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorek, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorek has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk on the BBM Global Network.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of The Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on The Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Welcome back, folks. This is Ron Roel again, the host of 45 Forward on Bold Brave TV. And we're talking today with Renata Glass, who is the founder of Ageless Living. Before we get back to Renata, I just wanted to mention to my audience that if you know friends and family or acquaintances who are missing the live show today, not to worry. The replays can be listened to in my playlist on Bold Brave TV YouTube channel. Also, they can find the replays on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and a lot of streaming platforms. So, um, not to worry. You can see it many ways. So before the break, we were talking to Renata about her company and the kind of services she provides. It's really a suite of services that go together to help people age in place in lots of capacities. So I wanted to take a deeper dive in some of her services and starting off with some of her, I guess, her concierge move management, which ties in a lot of her services. So let's start with that, Renata.
Yes. So as we spoke before the break, my business kind of grew from its first day, and it kind of
Hmm.
evolved with each day based on the needs that my clients expressed. So move managing, and I always say that it's concierge move managing because we
Hmm.
really take such good care of our clients.
Hmm.
I think what really sets me apart is the fact that I really make every service that we provide is very individualized. So I always listen to the clients. I kind of get in tune with their personalities, and I think it probably stems from my being a physical therapist and working with
Oh.
seniors for so many
Hmm.
years. I listen to what their concerns are, because everybody has different concerns. Everybody has their strengths and weaknesses, and I try to tap into those when we provide the service. So our concierge moving services, if somebody has lived in their home for,
Hmm.
40, 50, 60 years, enough, most of my clients have, they accumulate a lot of stuff.
Right.
But a lot of the stuff, it really has a lot of sentimental value to the
Hmm.
client. And it's very important to make sure that we don't overlook that, and we really, respect their memories.
Hmm.
So you have to kind of, they realize they have to downsize, but that cup that has you know a break in it is so important to them, and they don't want to they don't want to get rid of it, because it was their mother's, their mother's when
Hmm.
she was little, and they're keeping it. So it's very important to approach the job with respect, and really caring and love, and understanding. So we really um, hold their hand if they need it, because like some of them are very independent, and some of them are, but moving is a very difficult process, and it's
Hmm.
a very stressful process. So what my job is, I can't really take fully stress away, but what my job is, my mission is to make it as stress less as
Hmm.
possible. So
Yeah.
whatever it requires, we help them go through their belongings and decide what they need to keep and what they need to donate and what to get rid of. We help them pack everything up and move to the new, whether they're going into an independent living, assisted living, or a smaller home. I help them kind of decide what furniture, and this is where my interior design comes in. I help them with placement of the furniture. I help them
Hmm.
if needs to be ordered, so it's functional and safe, and once again, aesthetically pleasing. We help them set up their new home. We clear their home um, for sale. So I work with
Hmm.
a lot of professionals, and I bring in a lot of resources as needed.
Hmm.
But the
Hmm.
process is, I make it as smooth as possible,
Right.
and most of my clients are like very happy with the process, because they really, like, we really try to take the stress away
Hmm.
from
Hmm.
a very stressful process.
Yeah. Yeah, I was talking to someone recently who was involved in a similar field, and he mentioned that um, of the three biggest stresses in life, one is the top one is death, dealing with death. The second is dealing with divorce, and the third is moving.
Moving,
So
yes.
yeah, I mean, it's disrupting your world, and it's disrupting, and you have to do it, but boy, is it take a toll, and you're letting go, you're moving forward, but it's I mean, I think that people just underestimate the emotional toll that this kind of change takes on you, right?
It is an
Hmm.
amazingly um, stressful situation. It could be my when I was moving, my son said to me, he said, "Mom, but you do it all the time with other people, but it's very different when you do it for yourself, because the emotions are overwhelming." And
Hmm.
we're also dealing with elderly people who have lived in their homes 40, 50, 60 years, and they raised their families. Their kids
Hmm.
were born in those homes. Everything that they remember themselves as adults are associated with that home. It's
Right.
also the loss of independence. At least
Mm.
that's how they feel, because they were independent and autonomous in this home, and now they have to give it up. And a lot of the times it's because of loss of one, a partner.
Hmm. Hmm.
So they're dealing with so many emotions, and that's why it's so important to make it as respectful and as caring as possible.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think that there are emotional attachments. As you were talking before, I was thinking, well, about the personal attachment to things that I have now that go back to my childhood that I took from my mother's home when
Absolutely.
when she passed away, and I just focuses just oddly I was thinking about um I have this glass called which I just called the grape glass. And I was like the grape, grape glass. It was this purple translucent very reflective glass that for whatever reason I was transfixed on as a kid, you know. And so figuring out what things you need to hang on to and what thing, but you need to make choices about stuff. And in many
Absolutely.
cases,
But it's also important to talk about it, to talk
mhm,
about the value of those things, the sentimental value, because I think a lot of us, like, once we kind of express it, especially to their family, they have to express it to their kids. The kids have to really listen to them why it's
mm,
important. We also suggest frequently to take pictures of the items, not
mhm,
necessarily like keep them, just because it's about the memory
right,
of the item. It's the association that you make,
right,
um, not necessarily the item itself.
mhm,
Like most of them will not drink from that cup. It's just the memory that it invokes. And if they have pictures and they can put it in an album and then they look at that album, it's going to still invoke the same memories and the
right,
same emotions. So
right,
there's so many ways of doing it, approaching it, but it always has to be on the very individual level. I have clients who have almost like no emotional attachment. Like, I don't care, throw it out. I don't need it.
well,
Not many of those, but there are some. So that's why every situation is very individual and you have to approach it very individually.
right. So do you bring in family sometimes? Sometimes the adult children come in and are part of the process?
Absolutely. A lot of the times, however, when you bring in adult family, adult children, there's, like a little bit of contention start because, everybody has their own opinions and they start voicing them.
Mhm,
So most of the time it's a lot less stressful when they're not around.
right, right, okay. So you have to basically get the parents to say like, "No, no, that's okay, that's okay. I can take care of this. I'll bring you in
Yes,
when I when I."
and I think for the most part, most both parties realize that that's probably the best case scenario, because I approach it with caring and understanding and respect, yet I am not emotionally attached.
Mhm.
So, which makes it, like I bring reason to the situation as opposed to when it's family members, there's a lot of emotions that start coming up and sometimes it has to be done without them around.
Yeah, yeah. I think sometimes it can be done as a two-step process, right? So you go through with the homeowners who are leaving, and you say, "All right, this is stuff you're taking. This is the stuff you're not taking. So either you're going to throw this or you're going to give it to your kids. So bring them in, and you say to them, "Okay, who wants this stuff?" And you kind of force the decision making on, or what things do they want to take? And sometimes they can, there's some disagreements that people, kids both want the same thing, so forth. But I think that's a way to do it where you really sort of systematize it, but then, the parents kind of put them on notice, like, I'm not taking this. So it's up to you. If you don't want it, then fine. But you,
Absolutely. And it usually does happen that way. The parents tend to usually bring their children in and ask them, like, do you want this? Do you want this crystal vase? If the kids say yes, then they'll take it. If not, then like if it has the sentimental value, they tend to take it with them.
hmm
But there's definitely, um, there are many things that the children will take, and then there's a lot of things that the parents feel that they should be taking, but the kids really don't want it.
yeah,
But we really try to donate a lot because I always feel like there's so many people who really can use things that my clients can't use anymore,
yeah,
and it gives them a new life, and everybody's happy about it.
hmm
So we try to donate as many things as possible.
yeah. I think that's a really good approach because there are things that even that I have now, like, okay, we have all this wedding china, right? Which we hardly use
Who
anyway. What
uses
do we
it
do with
anymore?
that? Yeah,
Yeah.
my sons are not going to want it. That's for sure. So
Yeah.
think about how to donate that to people who can use it. So that's great.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
yeah, yeah. So Uh, what should we move on to? Should we move on to home? Well, I guess home modifications and organization. I guess that's
Yeah,
part of it too, because I think that's also, as you mentioned earlier, an issue, not only in terms of clutter but in terms of safety for older people.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
and really, that's the number one concern
Hmm.
for all of us, safety, because falls, as you mentioned, is number one. It really is a major reason for mortality in
Hmm.
the elderly.
Hmm.
So we want to prevent that as much as possible. And the best way to do it is make your home safe.
Hmm.
So home safety modifications, once again, where my my physical therapy degree comes into play significantly is in home safety modifications.
Hmm.
I was just talking to someone today, actually, even placement of grab bars.
Hmm.
There's a way to do it where your grip strength is going to be better than at other angles. You know,
Hmm.
you can call in a handyman who's just going to put the hand bar where they kind of feel like it should be, but
Hmm.
there's always an angle that will, if you grasp something, you can understand that like your grip strength is different at different wrist angle. Placing it on the wall. I recently spoke with a friend who said that her mother-in-law had grab bars put in into the bathroom, and she fell while reaching for it.
Oh. Hmm.
So there's so many different ways to implement the safety modifications.
Hmm.
A lot of older homes have saddles that are, very high.
Hmm.
Reducing them, it saves a lot of issues.
Hmm.
Widening doorways, increasing the lighting, putting threads on stairs,
Hmm.
moving the furniture out, to opening up spaces, removing the clutter,
Hmm.
um, changing, modifying inside the shower, the bathroom, the kitchen.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it doesn't have to be the entire house because most of us, especially the elderly, live in, they have their routine. They're in
Hmm.
their bathroom, they're in their bedrooms, kitchens, entry.
Right.
Basically, most of them don't go beyond um, even if somebody has a five bedroom house, they're
Yeah.
not going to go into the rest of the bedrooms. They live in
Right.
those in the space that they live in,
Right.
and that's the space that's very important to modify.
Hmm.
And it could be done. It doesn't have to look institutionalized. This is where my interior design degree comes in. I'm plugging
Hmm.
my interior design
Right.
degree. But in reality, can have aesthetically pleasing appearance and
Right.
yet save, like serve safety,
Hmm.
and be very safe and functional. And
Right.
even the grab bars can be put in so many different places. I have put in grab bars by the front door. So when
Hmm.
an elderly person comes up to the door and they need to open the door and they step back to open the door, a lot of the falls happen in that instance. But if
Hmm.
they have a grab bar by the door frame, they can hold on to it while opening the door.
Interesting.
So,
Okay.
and I really bring in my, I try to think outside the box.
Hmm.
I don't believe in cookie cutter solutions.
Right.
As I said, with concierge management, I think all the solutions have to be unique and unique to that individual,
Right.
because everybody has different needs.
Right. Okay. Well, that's a good spot to pause. So we are going to take another quick break right now. Once again, folks, we'll be coming back in a couple minutes to talk much more with Renata Glaz, the founder of Ageless Living. So don't go anywhere.
Dr. RC will share extraordinary resources and services that promote educational success, as well as making a difference in the lives of all social workers, as well as the lives of children, adolescents, and teens of today. She will have open discussions addressing many of the issues that we face about our youth and how being employed in the uniquely skilled profession of social work for over 18 years, has taught invaluable lessons through her personal experiences. She will also provide real-life facts, examples, and personal stories that will confirm that why serving as a child advocate is extremely beneficial when addressing the needs of the whole child. Listen live to Dare to Soar, Saturdays, 10 a.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network, and tune in radio as Dr. RC will provide thought-provoking information that will empower, encourage, and strengthen students, families, and communities across our nation. You can also visit her at soarwithkatie.com. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Welcome back, folks. Once again, I'm Ron Roel, the host of 45 Forward on Bold Brave TV. We're talking today with Renata Glaz, the CEO of Ageless Living, which is a company that deals with home modifications to age in place, but a lot of related issues that go into making a home safe and secure for older people, but people of all ages, actually. So before the break, we were talking about home organization, and during the break, we were talking a little bit about the issue of clutter and some of the things that get to an excessive stage of hoarding. So how do you deal with these situations, Renata?
So hoarding is definitely an issue that's not, it's very challenging, and some are more successful than others. When somebody calls me with a referral for a hoarding situation, I never tell them that, we can definitely be successful, because it really depends on an individual. We are pretty successful dealing with it, and I have had great success. Hoarding situations are tough because you're dealing with a client who does not want to get rid of anything, and that's why they're in that situation. They do not see reasoning with them is sometimes very difficult because they do not see the safety implications. So it's a lot of it is just talking from experience. And as I said, being a physical therapist, they kind of trust me with that aspect a little bit more as far as the safety. But it's definitely a very challenging thing to work with. It's organizing the home. It's organizing the home in the way where everything that they need is within reach. It's accessible. And getting rid of the stuff that they really do not need. And a lot of it is not, a lot of the times it has nothing to do with the sentimental value of the things. It's something else that they're holding on to. I recently went and did an assessment on a lady who's in her 80s, has clothes since she was married. Like she has not gotten rid of probably of anything at all.
Right.
And I love clothes. Most of us ladies like our clothes. This was very excessive. And every time I would try to, speak with her from just kind of try to explain to her, well, maybe the fashion is not there and it doesn't fit you anymore. She had an explanation and excuse for every single thing. So that's, and that's very difficult. And she had daughters who, they were the ones who brought me in, and it was very difficult. It was very difficult to kind of get through, and because she's like, but I can still wear it.
Right.
and reason doesn't always work. So those are like very challenging situations,
Hmm.
but we have had a very good success as
Hmm.
well.
Yeah, it is challenging. I think that's, so now physical therapy, but you need to be, psychologist really
Oh
to deal
yeah.
with some of these
Oh
issues.
my
And
God, yes. But I think
yeah.
just working with people in general, it's good
Hmm.
to be, a little bit of a psychologist just to, you know, be able to deal with them
Yeah.
because we
Yeah.
all have our issues, we all have our idiosyncrasies, and it's very important to respect people for, for their feelings and who they are, but yet try to kind of refocus them and get them to allow you to help them.
Right. Yeah. And sometimes you need to engage the family, you need to engage help, or I'm sure you work with people who do sales, estate
Yeah.
sales, before
Yeah.
the things happen. And, I remember doing a story when I was the Act Two editor of Newsday about someone who dealt with decluttering and saw this house in a nearby community, and it was it was just stuffed, and it wasn't like actually junk. It wasn't like old newspapers, but the widower who lived there collected everything. He was a ham radio operator. He had every ham radio. He had every TV, every game that his kids ever played. And actually a lot of the stuff was of collector's value. So they did bring in some people who specialized in this kind of stuff.
And
And
it definitely helps. Like
yeah.
if they can sell their items, it definitely is
Hmm.
helpful. But we're
Right.
also dealing a lot with individuals that live through not having much. Whether it's Great Depression or World War II.
Right.
People did not have as much as what we have every day.
Right. Right.
And, you know, at some point they were able to obtain those things and they just hold on to them and
Yeah.
everything has value. And just in case, what if I can use it? What if I this? What if I that?
Right. Right.
Um,
But
and, and this is where the attachment comes in as well.
yeah. Yeah, but it is a hazard, as you mentioned, of clutter, of safety. But I think also it's a mental health hazard, right? I mean, if you live in all this
Yes,
clutter, you can't focus, and organize your life. So it does become a mental health issue when you help them declutter.
absolutely. It's very stressful, and
Mm.
it gets to the point where it gets out of hand, where are they don't even know where to start. The
Mhm.
job becomes they realize that it needs to be cleared, they realize that it needs to be organized, but the job becomes so severe that they don't
Mhm.
even know where to start. And
Right.
the stress of it can really, really affect your health, your
Mhm.
mental health, and your physical health as
Right.
well as your physical safety.
Mhm.
So it definitely has a lot of implications.
Right. So let me go back a little bit to some of your process about when you work with clients. I mean, so you come into a house. What steps do you go through? I mean, do you just go through? Do you walk through the rooms and then sort of ask some questions about what do they do, where do they spend their time? What things are important to them? Tell me a little bit about
Absolutely.
that.
So I always start with an interview. Like I always start with like an informal interview. I speak with people. We sit down
Hmm.
and we talk because they have to be comfortable with me before they can allow me to enter their life. Because
Hmm.
I'm entering their life and invading their private space and
Hmm.
autonomy.
Hmm.
So unless they're comfortable with me, they're not going to allow me to do that.
Hmm.
So it always starts with a conversation, and I never have a time limit on the conversation, and a lot of the times they start telling me about stories about their lives and their children's lives and, their family's lives. And I really truly enjoy that. And they feel it. So
Hmm.
once they get comfortable and during that process, I try to decipher what's really important for them, what their priorities are, because sometimes they don't even know it themselves, but in the conversation, I can pick up little bits of information that will really make it,
Mhm.
very obvious what's really needed and what difficulties they are having at home. I also like to speak with their either children or caregivers to give me input as well,
Mhm.
what difficulties they're having throughout the day. So that I would say is the most important
Mhm.
aspect
Mhm.
is getting as much information as possible. Um, as a physical therapist, I always do like I try to find out their medical history, which is also very important. And knowing their medical history and knowing what the progression is going to be
Mm.
of their disease, if it's something like Parkinson's or stroke, or you know what I mean. So I kind of understand what the progression is going to be. So
Mhm.
when we do the modifications, I try not to just accommodate the limitations of today. I try to accommodate the limitations that are yet to come.
Mhm.
Um, and then obviously I walk through their home
Mhm.
and assess the spaces. I kind of it's almost it almost jumps out at me. I always say you can take me out of physical therapy, you can't take a physical therapist out of me.
Uh-huh.
I come into a home and the first thing I see is, like where the issues might be. I'll see
Mhm.
the saddle, I'll see the curb, I'll see the stairs, I'll see the railing, the doorways, the lighting. It just jumps out at me. And
Mhm.
obviously, I write all those things down. I like to take videos and pictures with
Okay,
permission
good.
of the client. And then I go home and I compile a list of things that I believe, could be my recommendations.
Mhm.
Um, After that, I speak with the family and
Mhm.
the client, and we kind of make a decision what is important. We triage. I like the word triage, kind of
Mhm.
triage what's more important and what's less important. And we attack things that are, really, really important, like have the most value as far as for safety and function. And, we try to, depending also on, their ability to, because we are a private pay company,
Mhm.
depending on what their needs and abilities are,
Mhm.
we will implement those modifications that are the most necessary and
Right.
will bring in the most value and keep
Mhm.
them as safe as possible.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. Okay. Well, we need to sneak in another break, our last break, but we will come back and do a wrap up with you and get some final thoughts. So, folks, stay with us. We will have some final thoughts and advice and observations from Renata Glaz, the founder of Ageless Living. So, don't come anywhere. We'll be right back.
Dr. RC will share extraordinary resources and services that promote educational success, as well as making a difference in the lives of all social workers, as well as the lives of children, adolescents, and teens of today. She will have open discussions addressing many of the issues that we face about our youth and how being employed in the uniquely skilled profession of social work for over 18 years has taught invaluable lessons through her personal experiences. She will also provide real-life facts, examples, and personal stories that will confirm that why serving as a child advocate is extremely beneficial when addressing the needs of the whole child. Listen live to Dare to Soar, Saturdays, 10 a.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network, and tune in radio as Dr. RC will provide thought-provoking information that will empower, encourage, and strengthen students, families, and communities across our nation. You can also visit her at soarwithkatie.com. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them. We discover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Welcome back, folks, to our final segment with Renata Glaz, the CEO of Ageless Living. Been talking a lot about how to help people age in place in a very comprehensive way, from home modifications to interior design and concierge moving services. So I have a few thoughts I wanted to share with Renata before we finish the show, but I wanted to make sure that we get in some of the contact information, so we don't get cut off at the end there. But so Renata, if people do have questions for you, um, how do they contact you? I assume you have a website. Give us some,
Yes.
contact stuff.
So I believe in ageless living, and that's why I named my company Ageless Living. So the website is very easy. It's www.agelesslivingny.com.
Mm-hmm.
My email address is Renata, Renata, at agelesslivingny.com. And you
Mm-hmm.
can also reach me at 917-748-9332.
Great. Okay.
And I
So I want to make
respond
sure we
pretty quickly.
good. Good. Okay. So I want to make sure we got that in before when the show closed out.
I
Now
appreciate
some sort
it.
of some final thoughts. Um, Again, any thoughts on some of the lessons you learned along the way? Perhaps some things you didn't expect, or surprises, or rewards that had come up along the journey.
I think life is full of surprises and definitely puts us on journeys that we never expect to be on. I
Hmm.
think embracing those journeys is extremely important, and be flexible enough to kind of go with the flow. That's one thing that I certainly learned in my life. Never give up, and aging gracefully is really a reality. And
Hmm.
my mission is truly fulfill, make seniors' lives full of life and independence and autonomy, and everything that I can do to help. I really truly strive to do that.
Hmm.
Um, I always feel like the aging population is unfortunately very overlooked.
Hmm.
People talk over them, and it really, um, I always strive to kind of make them feel relevant, make
Hmm.
them feel, because they live their lives. They're full of wisdom and humor, and I, they're a population that we can learn so much from. And
Right. Right.
I love working with them. I love having conversations. I had one client ask me, actually not once, but a number of clients asked me the question, do you like what you do? As we're packing their, stuff of 40, 50, 60 years. And my
Mm-hmm.
answer was, I don't necessarily love the packing part or going through the
Hmm.
belongings, but my favorite part is having the conversations and interactions with these individuals, learning so much, having laughs, and seeing them as human beings that they are,
Right.
and they're amazing. They've lived amazing lives, and we can
Right.
all learn so much from them.
Yeah, yeah. I think from my perspective, it's the importance of the kind of work you do is to think about it a little bit ahead of time, which is why I call my show 45 Forward. It's like, this is where you're going to be. Look at where your parents are or your other loved ones, and that's going to be you. So
Yes,
think about it, and if you do, they will, as you said, there will always be surprises, but there are ways you can plan while not predicting. And then you have lots of options, and some of the things that you recommend for people as they're older, as you well know, are great for people when they're in middle age and younger ages. So
absolutely.
yeah. So listen, I know there's a lot more we can talk about. We're gonna have to leave it there for today. But I want to thank you, Renata, for a terrific show. I want to thank my engineer, Alex, for helping me through the show as always. Once again, folks, I'm your host, Ron Roel. You've been watching 45 Forward on Bold Brave TV. Thank you for spending the hour with me, helping me learn and grow and hear inspiring stories from people like Renata. Make a journey successfully through the second half of life. So be sure to join me next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time when I'll be talking with Diane Curley, who is the CEO and founder of Celebrating Women. It's a global platform she created to amplify women's voices and visibility. So then, folks, until then, keep moving forward, 45 forward.
This has been 45 Forward with host Ron Roel. Tune in each week as Ron tackles the many aspects of health, finance, family and friends, housing, work, and personal pursuits, all as part of an integrated plan and to take charge of your unretiring life during these uncertain times. Wednesdays, 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network, powered by B2 Studios.